All right, welcome into another episode of the Lowdown Sports Show. This show is brought to you by our partners, T Public, Fanatics, and SeatGeek. SeatGeek is a ticket app that takes the confusion out of buying tickets. Use code the Lowdown in all caps. That's CHA Lowdown for $20 off your first order. And this show is also presented by SeatGeek. And Mr. BJ has our stat of the episode.
You mean StatHead. You said SeatGeek, but I
Oh,
know you were talking about our friends over at
oh,
StatHead. StatHead,
I'm
your
so
all
ahead of
access
myself.
pass to the entire basketball, baseball, pro football, hockey reference database. You know, of course, we're concerned mostly about the basketball one. It's $8 a month. You can cancel anytime. Your first month is free. And your stat of the episode, Drew, for tonight's show with a matchup coming up tomorrow night between the Dallas Wings and the Las Vegas Aces in 2021-22. It was Asia Wilson's worst season by points per game against the Wings. The Wings held her to just 15 points per contest, which is the only time she's been held below 20 points a contest when the Wings and the Aces square off in Asia Wilson's career. That is your stat of the episode, presented by StatHead Drew.
Lovely, BJ. We love that as the matchup is right around the corner with those
Mm-hmm.
wings and aces. And ladies and gentlemen, we have some guests here today. Let's get those beautiful faces up on the screen. Returning guests, as a matter of fact, the hosts of the Get Right from 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, Texas, Mr. Reggie Adetula and Mr. Kevin Gray Jr. Welcome back, fellas.
Hey, appreciate you
Appreciate it,
having
man.
us.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, indeed. Mr. Kevin Gray joined us on the very first episode of the Lowdown. He actually joined the Lowdown before BJ was on the Lowdown, if we're giving stats out here to begin this episode.
We went back to the basics back last week in episode 100. He's not going to let me live that one down. Unfortunately.
I caught him. He slipped up. He wasn't here for a few episodes, and we're going to let the world know. I'm technically the only one that's done 100 episodes, ladies and gentlemen.
hmm
And Mr. Reggie joined us recently this past year, almost a year ago, a little over. Man, you guys have been doing the Get Right for over a year now. That was early in, let's see, early May or June when you popped on with us. So, how long into the Get Right were you guys by June of last year?
It depends. How do we want to measure this? Do we want to measure this in like linear time or actual episodes? Because those are varying
We do both.
Yeah,
degrees
those
of
are
Linear
very
time, because I know the Rangers getting away.
yeah.
Mhm.
Probably the announcement was in May, and we probably got going a
late
few weeks
May.
after that. Yeah.
Yeah, a few
Oh,
weeks after that. Yeah.
fresh into the Get Right when we had Reggie on. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, we're glad to have you guys back here for sure. And in the prime of Dallas Mavericks free agency season for the NBA in general, but Dallas Mavericks getting active. Mr. Nico is cooking, and you guys have been all over it with the coverage at 105.3 The Fan. You know, Kevin, I know you got an extra podcast inside the Mavs. You know, what do you think about, Portland matching the offer for Thibault, and now Dallas got to look elsewhere for a 3-and-D wing?
Yeah, not too surprising. I mean, once Portland acquired Matisse Thybulle, it was one of those things where you got a young 3-and-D wing that you're gonna probably keep around after giving away some capital to actually go ahead and bring him in there. So it didn't surprise me that they matched him. What I do like is the pettiness at which the Mavericks went after it, because they basically threw the kitchen sink at
Yeah.
Matisse Thybulle in terms of trying to get in there with a 15% trade kicker. Like they threw
Right.
everything they could
They were
to try
trying to pay him.
exactly to entice him, to get him from Portland. So Portland's going to have to pay him quite the bag in order to keep him. So I give the Mavericks credit for looking at what they saw and went for it. Didn't work out in this case, but they still have some things to play with to be able to make some things happen. So we'll see what they can do in addition to getting Grant Williams. But so far, so good for this Mavericks team and what they're trying to do and accomplish, this offseason so far.
Who's the next target, if you had to guess, now that Thibault is off the table?
Oh boy, let Mavs Twitter tell you it's PJ Washington, but that's not necessarily the case because PJ Washington gonna be a little too rich for the Mavericks blood at this point. Plus, the whole Brittany Renner thing. I don't know if they want to deal with all that.
You
No,
just
it's
love bringing that up. They ain't got nothing to do with this.
It didn't. It sure didn't. I just wanted to bring it up anyway.
Mavs
this
Twitter will
mess.
bring it up.
Well, dudes are real pressed these days about their ladies out here in the streets, at Usher concerts and that kind of thing. So there's a lot going on
man.
there. We'll maybe get into that later at some point.
Whew.
But at the same time, That's a good question. I'm not sure at this point and where they pivot to.
Is this where I tag in?
Yeah, tag.
Mike Pena, the Ringer, very good basketball mind. He put up some names, and I was like, okay, those are interesting. The one that comes to mind, the first one that comes to mind for a lot of folks is Kelly Oubre, which is not really a fun name. But hey, man, you were already looking at a dude that gave you defense, not a lot of offense. Kelly Oubre, a little bit in that vein, except not a two-time all defense, which that's tough.
Yeah.
Also within those, a couple other names that came up. Oh goodness, as I was about to say them, I've forgotten them, that's the worst, isn't it? The absolute worst.
Yes.
Terrence Davis or Justice Winslow. Any takers in that regard? Like, they just need dudes who can play defense, like dudes with big bodies that can play defense. But the problem is, the cheaper that you go on that scale, the less likely that you're getting somebody that can actually add on the offensive end. And what that's tough is now we're doing defense for offense substitutions or dudes that get played off of the court in certain instances. That's really unfortunate that they weren't able to make that shake. But, that's what the market gave you this offseason. So you didn't really have a lot to work with. You have to do with what you had.
Yeah, you get what you pay for. And I know Drew, as a big Dookie, would love Justice Winslow to come over to the Mavericks. In this
Another
offseason.
Duke product to come over.
Another one.
As long as he's ready to go. Hey, there was hope for him in Miami when he first started, but his career ain't been, what it was anticipated to be at all. So, I mean, we got to see if he can get on the floor for the Mavericks, but we'll have to see what they do. Can we survive without adding another 3-and-D wing? Like, what would this team look like as currently constructed with, the other additions that, we're going to lead into here, like Dante Exum? What's he look like now after an injury-riddled career? And surprisingly enough, looking back, Dante Exum drafted in 2014. Doesn't seem like he's been around that long. He's been hurt quite a bit.
He seems like 5'13", 35, 75. That is a lottery ticket, ladies and gentlemen. That's what he seems like, right? Like, he's just he is this dude that he has NBA size and he could play defense, but the shooting was just so bad. And supposedly, overseas in Serbia, did you know that was where he was playing? Serbia. That's right, Belgrade, Serbia. He went to Eurobasket Championship, and he also seemed to be knocking down shots. So you bring him over, you see if those shots translate. Maybe you got a rotation player. If not, well, enjoy the money, I guess. Like, that's that's a bargain, situation. Seth Curry is a little bit of a bargain situation. You got him for cheap. You know that he can shoot when healthy, and hopefully he brings a little bit of vibes, as they like to say, right? Like, this is a team where those are the things that they did around the perimeter. The things that were important were getting younger, which they did through drafting and, obviously a little bit of trading. But more importantly, the big hurdle is now you need to get a defensive center. And that's going to determine a lot of this. Maybe you're now starting Josh Green. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Do you really feel like the jumper is fixed? That's a question that'll determine how good this looks. And if you can get a real legitimate starting center that can give you 25, 30 minutes that you feel good about. Those are the things that will determine the aptitude of this team, because we know that the major engine is Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, but the rudders are having enough defense around them and having guys that will make it so that, or guys that teams have to consider, right? Guys that teams just can't go, he's over there, that's fine. We're focusing on doubling Luka or doubling these guys, right? Like, having those other guys be considerations on a court day in, day out, and day out in the NBA is going to be what determines how high they go.
Yeah, with Grant Williams, a guy who's a 43% shooter from the corners from three, that helps. So being able to knock down shots in those corners is going to be huge for Luka and Kyrie in terms of their penetration. But, to the point, what Reggie's talking about in terms of who you're running out there, I mean, for me right now, the way that this starting lineup looks based on your roster currently, for me, it's probably going to be Luka, Kyrie, Josh Green, Grant Williams, and then Dwight Powell as your starting five. I know those are the screams that you hear from Mavs Twitter right now, hearing Dwight Powell in the starting lineup. Because, I mean, based on what you have, Dwight Powell knows the system better than anybody there. JaVale McGee's not going to be on this team by the time we get to training camp, whether they find a trade partner to move on from him, or they waive and stretch him, for the next couple of years. He's not going to be on this team by the time we start this year. So that leaves you with Powell, Derek Lively, and Rashawn Holmes. Rashawn Holmes undersized like Powell is, better offensively, but at least with Powell, he'll be able to have the chemistry already built there with Luka as you try to bring, Derek Lively along. So that for me is who my starting five is going to be, just based off of your roster construction right now. We'll see if they're able to make a move to go get a center. Maybe they revisit the Clint Capella talks that they had, during the draft, and maybe try to get him from Atlanta. Although Atlanta just gave DeJounte Murray a bunch of money to stick around there. So who knows what they're actually doing in Atlanta at this point. So that would be where I would be for the Mavericks right now based on what they have and what they still need to do this offseason. But to Reggie's point, they got to get a center. They know that, just like the rest of us know that they got to get a center going before the season starts for sure.
Yeah, totally agree. And how long do you think, or how long do you anticipate it'll take Lively to come along and get a bigger role, and depending on who they acquire as a center, potentially become it? And what's the difference maker in adding in Tyson Chandler to help bring him along for the Mavericks, Reggie?
Oof, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? Right? Like, how quickly can a prospect come along, especially one that looked a little green? Right, you started seeing a little bit of flashes, and you drafted him off of flashes towards the back end of his season at Duke. I'm sure you know this very intently, Drew. So yeah, that's the tough thing about it. Like, this organization prides themselves on development, and the new basically the new assistant that I believe is Jason Kidd's lead assistant, Alex Jensen out of Utah. He's gotten a lot of credit for helping develop Rudy Gobert in Utah. So you hope that those elements come together and help speed along the process, but ultimately, it's a process. Development isn't linear, and it's not guaranteed in any case. So, like, it's just going to be how quickly can he add weight on his body, right? How quickly can he do that? How quickly can he adjust to the speed of the NBA game? Because some dudes get in there and they're like, yep, I was ready for this. I was born ready for this. And some dudes look like they were trapped on a NASCAR track, and this is also fast and they need a second. Also, like, playing with Luka is easy, but also it's difficult in some ways. It's like knowing when to be in the way, when to be out of the way, getting a feel for all those things. I can't really tell you. That was a very long-winded way of me saying I can't really tell you, but the hope is sooner rather than later, because you have a guy who is youthful. You have a guy who has a lot of athleticism, and that's the thing that Nico Harrison and the Mavs are like hoping on. The athleticism, the defensive instincts are the things that will hopefully get him on the court quicker, and hopefully he can build out the other things around him, other portions of the game around him quick enough to make it so that he can get more and more minutes on the court. But I wonder if KG, if you feel the same with me, like, I talk about this in the playoffs, but I think for like young players, this also matters. Sometimes it's less about what you can do, and sometimes it's about what you can't, and if there's too many of, he can't do that and he can't do that, that will limit his time. So, like, being able to, make sure that you do all the things that are necessary to be on the court, particularly with Luka, which is diving, screening, rolling, those types of things, and boarding and those things, right? Like, if you can get a hold of those things, then sooner rather than later, and hopefully that's within a year or two.
Yeah, you're hoping that's within the next couple of years, and I think that's part of the reason why the Mavericks were able to bring Dwight Powell back as a stopgap for now, while still hoping to improve their center position based on what they're wanting to do. But one of the things that the team was impressed with during his workouts was his defensive IQ, his ability to understand and read exactly what the Mavericks were wanting to do from a schematic standpoint. And if he is already on that trajectory, that bodes well for him in terms of his long-term ability to be around here. So if he can grow in terms of being an offensive player, in terms of some of the things that Reggie was talking about from an offensive standpoint, maybe even find a little bit of a jump shot from maybe 10 to 15 feet as well. Now you're starting to find a guy that can put pressure on defenses in a lot of different ways, given what you already have with Luka and Kyrie and their ability to penetrate, specifically to Luka, obviously, with his ability to go at the rim and find, shooters and guys cutting to the basket and that kind of thing. So Lively's got a chance to do some good things here. Hopefully they'll allow him to bring him slowly along with all these Tyson Chandler projections and all this. Even for Chandler, it took him a few years to learn how to play the NBA game coming straight out of high school. At least for Lively, he's got a year under his belt in terms of college play, and hopefully that'll help his learning curve here as well.
Real quick, I can add this as well, because I realize all my analysis or whatever we want to call it is based on like a kind of a vacuum neutral situation. I forgot. Oh no, this is Jason Kidd's Mavericks. Do you play defense? Do you do the things that the coaches want you to do? Because I think Kevin Gray understands exactly what I'm talking about here. Like, in theory, do what the coach wants you to do. No. They take highly to people that they feel have a grasp for what they are trying to accomplish. So the idea that, he has some defensive natural ability, if you can turn that into, I am on my defensive assignments all the time, I imagine that the playing time goes up sooner rather than later too.
I know when Drew and I were talking before the show here, we were wondering, what you guys thought with Chandler training Lively and hoping that this is not a repeat of the Moses Brown situation. Almost is what first came to mind.
Like a baby deer out there.
Yeah, yeah. But for you guys, and it doesn't necessarily just have to be about the name or anything, but what has been your favorite move? It could be because we got a steal of the lifetime in terms of the money we're giving out. What's been the best move in your opinion the Mavericks have made so far? And is this, you think that there will be anything that they can do to top it here this offseason?
So I'm going to answer your question, in this way, because I don't necessarily have a favorite, but what I do have is the favorite thing about all of this is the process in which they've gone about it. Like, I've enjoyed the way that Nico Harrison and his team has started to kind of put this together. I think Reggie's laughing because I think I stole his answer from him.
We think too much alike.
I mean,
that's a great duo.
I mean, there's a reason why we're number one at nights, I guess. But at the same time, I'm just saying, the idea being this team had very limited resources to work with. And what they were able to do in turning, chicken bleep into chicken salad in some ways, they were able to do it by getting Derek Lively, then being able to get back into the first round and getting, Omax Prosper and Rashawn Holmes, hopefully who can revive his career here. But then they systematically went out. They took care of Kyrie. Whatever you want to say about Dwight Powell, you can say about Dwight Powell. He's back. And then they bring back Seth Curry for his third tour of duty with the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, cool, no problem. That means Tim Hardaway Jr., I'm sure, is probably on his way out the door. But it's the process at which this front office has gone about it that I've enjoyed the most. And more importantly, the creativity at which they showed to do it. Because to Reg knows, we talked about this all the time. How creative was this front office going to get? And could they show that to us in what I deemed as the most important offseason of the Luka era at this point? And so far, they've been able to do that in a lot of ways, and you have to give them credit for the way that they've gone about it in this way.
Yeah, just to let you guys in, the reason why I smiled, because like my immediate answer was going to be my favorite was the first move because it was indicative of the mindset. So there you go. That's Kevin Gray getting into it. To answer your question directly, at this point, it has to be Grant Williams because that's the one that is most poised to affect your team. Right. He is a dude who is going to be in your closing lineup more than likely, which you can't say about any of these other moves, I guess, besides the Kyrie thing, which was just that you had to do that thing. But to be esoteric and also like not answer your question and be a little bit of a jerk, which I enjoy doing. My favorite move and the most important move is the next move, because none of these things finish your team. Right. If you sit down on the road right now and say that we are done, this is not a team that I have a lot of faith in. And that's not to be unfair to them, but they were just in such a hole after losing assets and talent that they needed to do a huge revamp just to get themselves in the place that they want to be, which is contending for Western Conference and NBA championships. And this is not enough, right? So you need to finish that off. Hopefully, obviously the big one, getting you a center that can be the anchor of your defense and also play the biggest role that you could possibly have with someone like Luka Doncic, which is pick and roll, right? Like having somebody that can kill. I mean, Dwight Powell was out here cooking people on pick and roll. How much more somebody that's better than that, right? So that is a huge portion of this. But then also like the finishing pieces, adding to your rotation, your wing rotation, because right now, all right, you have the idea of you have Grant Williams and Josh Green, and then right, like adding to that, making sure that you have a full complement of players. And that is like your next move, right? And so that's the most important one because you have to finish this out, right? It's, I guess, a saying that everybody knows. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. So they've started phenomenally, but they have to finish this off to give themselves the best chance of, one, competing, and then, two, the secondary thing, which is, keeping Luka, that thing.
Yeah.
One more question before we dive into one more player on the Mavericks who's going to be important going forward. But did you guys ever think that the Mavericks would bring back Seth Curry for a third time?
No, because I didn't even know that he was really on their radar. I mean, but I think it gives them a guy that, again, they got a bunch of guards who can shoot but can't defend anybody. So, Curry at 31, 32 years of age, third leading, three-point shooter in the history of the game, percentage-wise. I mean, you got him for $4 million a season. Congratulations. No harm, no foul there. The real question is, Reg talks about the next move. Okay, what does that mean for Tim Hardaway Jr.? Because I can't imagine even with the descending contract that he has, that you're going to bring him back to the tune of $17 million this upcoming season, when you've got a guy who virtually is not only going to be replacing him in terms of his shooting, but also you got a second-year, player in Jaden Hardy, who theoretically is going to be your sixth man coming off the bench this year, who can provide you that scoring that you're going to be looking for that Tim Hardaway Jr. was providing. So I would imagine that the days are numbered for Tim Hardaway Jr. around here. That's what that Seth Curry signing means to me in that case.
Reggie?
Yes. This team loves players that have played here before.
They do.
And I don't know if that's fair, because like all teams know, like the thing that right? Like there's a level of comfort there, but definitely this team absolutely loves players that have played here before.
And KG's already alluded to him, talking about Jaden Hardy. And I saw the clip your co-host, not this one, but Grant Afseth had put out about when Jared Dudley was talking about how important or what Summer League was going to be about, and that's Jaden Hardy. How much can he improve his stock through Summer League? Like, what is the ceiling to boost his playing time going into next year? Like, what do you think he can fix in a Summer League vacuum?
Well, if nothing else, he's going to get plenty of opportunities to do it, because Jared Dudley said, look, the offense is Jaden Hardy this summer. He's going to get, 20, 25 shots a night. He's going to get a chance to cook every time he gets out on the floor, for the Mavericks. So I think the biggest things for him, and Dudley started to talk about some of it earlier this week, was his ability to understand recognition and play making based on what defenses are trying to dictate to him from a scoring standpoint. Because Hardy can wake up, and drop 25, on any given day. Now, can he be a better playmaker? Can he recognize what defenses are trying to do to him and be able to make his teammates better? Is he making plays by getting downhill and hitting guys in the corner? All of these things are part of the maturation of his game, that as the game continues to slow down for him, he'll be able to be that much more of an effective playmaker, which then really opens up things for him from an offensive standpoint, because, he can shoot from three. He can get to the basket. He's unafraid to finish at the rim. Like, he's got some ferocity to his game that you just simply can't teach. And now can you add the layers of playmaking and nuance and understanding of what defenses are doing against him? Those are the things that I want to see from him. Even if he's dropping 25 a night, what is he looking like from a passing standpoint? Is he making good decisions? Those are the kinds of things that I think he can grow in terms of his game this summer, that he'll have plenty of opportunities to throughout the course of Summer League.
Live your best Jordan Clarkson life.
Yeah,
right.
Man.
Like,
go get it.
That's what the profile says, right? Like,
yeah.
I constantly look at Jaden Hardy and I'm like, oh, okay, bucket getter, but also like sixth man volume shooter, and he's still young. That's the beauty of being a young volume scorer, is that people are just happy when they see numbers go up. Right now, when you get to be an older volume scorer, that's when you turn into, like, I guess, Donovan Mitchell, where people start looking around and like, hey, buddy.
Or best case scenario, Jamal Crawford of some sort.
And like, we start looking around and like, hey, buddy, you got anything else besides the bucket getting? And that's some of the stuff that KG is alluding to. But for the time being, you are a young guard. Live your best Jordan Clarkson. Like, be in a situation where you can go out, and when you're playing against the second team, which it seems like he slotted in, go and get buckets. But the best Jordan Clarkson, life also adds to the elements that KG was talking about, right? Like being able to slot in, and maybe if you need a closing guard from time to time, be able to slot in well and understand how to play against the starting caliber players, which is the defenses that you're going to see, the caliber of players that you're going to see, being capable of handling those things. So yeah, no, I think it's just getting an opportunity to do some of the stuff that he innately did a little bit more with a better feel for the NBA game. I say it all the time amongst my friends. One of my favorite things about Summer League is seeing dudes who are like second-year guys who have gotten enough playing time just go out here and monster mash on the rest of these fools. And like, I think that's kind of the Jaden Hardy special, at least in my eyes. Seeing you not only like be able to be out here and be better than them, but like in all of the aspects of the NBA game. I kind of want to see that from him.
Grade for the Mavs offseason so far.
I'm going to let Reggie go because I love it. I know he loves giving grades for off seasons.
Real jerk move.
He hates predictions too.
That's right. Real jerk move. Incomplete. No, but sincerely, incomplete, right? Yeah. If I just had to gauge it, it's A-. Right, like it's an A- in part because and of course they still need to figure this out. Like Reggie Bullock, like I can't see the starting lineup yet, But like for thus far, you got probably the best 3-and-D wing that you could add when it comes to Grant Williams, in addition to the fact that, and I've tried not to overstate this, but I value this a good amount, like the playoff experience that he comes with, right? But also you got younger, which was a problem because what was it, a year or 2 years ago, when people were walking around saying, oh, but this is a young Mavs team. And I looked up and I saw all these damn 30s on the roster,
James
right?
Johnson.
I'm like, no, it's inexperience. It's not young. Now they're legitimately younger, which is a good thing to do. And they did all of that on a budget, so to say, because they did not have a ton of assets. And so there is some mortgaging in the future that had to happen, right? You just turned a first round pick swap into a couple of seconds. However, they took a little bit, made a little bit of something out of it, and they're not done, but they've done a fantastic job getting to this point. Now that A- goes to what if they don't get it complete. And that's the problem. That's why I have to come back to an incomplete.
I'm going to give them a B for balling on a budget. Because that's what, to Reggie's point, what he's starting to allude to. That's what they started to do. Like, they still need to figure out their center position, but at the same time, some of the things that they have accomplished here with what they had, particularly the Grant Williams move, was a stroke of genius. And one of the underrated aspects of that move is you low-key messed around and got 2 second-round picks. And Reggie knows how much the Mavericks have been setting, second-round picks on fire for the last, 4 or 5 years at this point.
You did it to get Jaden Hardy.
Exactly. But at least for that one, it worked out based on what he's, projected to be right now and how he played last year. So that, to me, is the biggest thing, is can they finish it off by getting themselves the kind of quality center that doesn't make Dwight Powell have to be in the starting lineup on opening night? Because if he's in your starting lineup, while yes, he is a veteran who knows his team and knows the system and everything else, that would be a major disappointment if Dwight Powell is your starting center on opening night. So if they can get that figured out, then I'll be able to bump it up maybe to, an A- of some sort, but I'll give him a B right now.
Let me ask, I know this isn't actually part of the rundown, but just, us between friends, if you will.
Oh,
sure. We're talking about centers Dwight Powell, and I guess the question really is, was Christian Wood ever really given a chance to succeed in this offense, or
that is
what went wrong there?
Kevin Gray special. In fact, can I do this here? ISO!
Oh, man. Look here, man. The whole Christian Wood experiment, whatever you want to call it, it almost felt ill-conceived to begin with. Oh, really? The whole ISO cam by itself. Wow. Look, there were some things, on the court, off the court, that this team just simply couldn't tolerate anymore with him. And, for all the offensive skill that he has, the lack of consistency on the defensive end, the mental lapses on the defensive end. There was a clip circulating, I think, yesterday of Grant Williams bodying, Christian Wood on the way to the basket at a home game against, the Mavericks. So it didn't work. I mean, he's a really good scorer. He can definitely put the ball in the basket, but you cannot play on this team and not be locked in defensively. And there were way too many times, where this player just simply was a liability on the defensive end. As much as he provided you offensively, he gave it all back, on the defensive end. And on this team, you can't do it. So he's got to be able to go to a team that can kind of hide him a little bit defensively, to where he's not so much of a liability, but can still be a guy that comes off the bench and provides you scoring, because he's a good scorer. I mean, there was no doubt about that. But you cannot be out here, playing the kind of defense, or lack thereof, that Christian Wood was playing. I think you're going to stick around on this version of the Mavericks. So,
all right, appreciate the update on our Mavericks here as they keep going through free agency. And Reggie, you and I know all too well where we're about to slide next, because we talked about them last time you were here. That's those Dallas Wings. My man, they couldn't get it done against the Aces last night. I saw you tweeting. You thought they were going to get it done. They ended up doing some Dallas Wings things and not getting it done. And I just need to know where you think we stand at this point with this team, and what is the pecking order changing? Do you think the pecking order needs to change?
Oh, are you saying Arike is no longer their best player? That's fun.
No, I'm just asking some questions. I'm just trying to ask the same question. I'm just trying to ask the same questions.
I need an ISO can for Reg.
Reggie?
Wow, Drew, that's crazy. I can't believe you say that. No, Satu's been incredible. Can we start there? Satu has been. I will start with the positives. Satu has been a fantastic version of herself, and I almost got negative real quick. No, I love how aggressive she is from jump. It was the first thing that popped out to me when I watched the Wings game this season. I was like, oh, she's going through people's chest, right? Like, oh, if she's going to go downhill, I like this. And we saw it. She even had to play a lot bigger because of Tierra McCown missing some time, both through injury and also, going overseas. And so I was like, oh, wow, this is incredible. Like, she is taking on the responsibility of playing bigger, making sure she gets rebounds. She's scoring at a high clip. She's available. That's great. I mean, I know that's not much she's not trying to be unavailable the years prior, but she is here. That's fantastic. So like all of those things have been incredible. And then I want to be even more positive, but real quick, because it's on Satu, it also makes me look up and go, okay, so none of this development happened until she was going and playing in Turkey, right? Like, the development, you could easily point to her time in the Euro League with Fenerbahce, I guess, as opposed to like the development locally. Speaking of development, Awak Kawir actually looked like she belongs on the W court, which I appreciate now. And Natasha Howard is incredible, right? Like, they have the right amount of size now. I like that they balanced this out a little bit. The question I have is like, hey man, what is this offense? And maybe they're starting to figure that out a little bit, right? I saw the way that they got out here and really hit the aces in the mouth and kept putting up points, just kind of got walked down. But for the longest time, the offense seems to be a quick, a simple action or Arike ISO. And Arike is an incredible isolation basketball player, but I think this team would benefit from having a more locked-in offense. And so, Satu is managing to get her own, and you still got a lot of incredible offensive players who you're getting points. But sometimes it feels like they lose the plot so easily offensively, and that makes me wonder. And then I appreciate that, Arike is trying on defense, and the defense looks better, but it's not enough. And so I don't know if that's just you need time with this coach, because how many different coaches has it been in how many years, right? Then we have to ask questions organizationally, which I think is the place to ask questions with this team. But I'm happy watching them. It's fun to watch, but for some reason, it's just enough stuff. And it's not all one thing, but it's just enough stuff that it's off. And it's really frustrating being someone who's kept up with the Wings rather for the last few years, because it's just like, man, you're so close. Just can we just get there?
Just put it all together, please.
Yeah. Well, I will say one thing that is nice, because I don't think I gave you like a very locked in answer. It's just been all over the place. But one of the things that has been nice is I appreciate the vibes being immaculate. Like, I appreciate that it seems like the players are enjoying playing together, that they like each other, that if they're going to complain about fouls, they're all doing it together. Like, I appreciate all this about the Wings. So I enjoyed that part.
Doesn't seem like there's as many off the court issues as there had been in past couple of years with issues with management and coaching.
It's good to see that the vibes are back. I mean, it's always been said that the vibes are there, but I mean, it doesn't always seem that way as the season goes along, especially once losing starts to happen, which, people are obviously going to get upset when they lose, but you can genuinely tell that this team is a bit different together this year. And I think that's in large part in credit to LT. I mean, to be honest, not that these past coaches were like dry and they couldn't, hold a locker room together, but LT is just a different personality, and she meshes in with the crew perfectly. I mean, whether it was even last year's crew, she might have helped last year's crew if she was here a year earlier, just because of,
Well, sometimes, look, man, you can get in between the beef. Is that going to stop the beef? I don't know.
No. And you can see things that, can't be fixed right now, I guess, for the team, but there's a lot of things that are fixable. And, as soon as they tweak those minor things, within their offense, because it just ends up being what it's been in years past. Like, they look like they can get things done, and then it just goes back to, oh, we've seen this before. Oh, we've seen it end like this before. Mm-hmm. We've seen this happen in a second half collapse. They had 25 and 26 points in the first two quarters against the Aces, and 15 and 16 in the third and fourth. So
and sometimes that's like, yo, you need a floor general. And
yes,
Veronica Burton started the season with the point guard duties, and that stopped happening because you can't really only play one side of the floor, unfortunately. Like the reason why Odyssey Sims has a full WNBA contract this season is because she came in and was like, oh wow, this is what happens when somebody can make those passes and like willfully does it. So I think the playmaking that's necessary, and it's not just from the point guard spot, like playmaking all the way across the roster. I think that's the biggest thing for me. I'd love to see that step up, playmaking for each other, not simply for yourself.
Yeah, and maybe that's something Lou can provide whenever she gets back out there. But who knows what we can expect from Lou when she comes back. But yeah, when Odyssey joined, she led the team in assists in the first 3 games. It was like 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
And now she's not. It's not getting the same type of run she was before, and they're in like a point guard limbo right now. Like it doesn't seem like they can make a decision which way they want to lean with the minutes and when. And it's kind of a weird rotation right now. But back to some positive stuff, because we like to be positive about
that's
our
right,
wins, Reggie, and we're gonna be positive about Satu Sabali. I know you've probably seen me talk about Satu over her time in Dallas and how she's been injury riddled, and I talked before the season began how important this season was for Satu because she hadn't played more than 17 games in a season. Reggie, when she plays tomorrow, it's game number 18.
You love to see it. Most improved player, building up an MVP case.
Yes,
worthy all-star, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
It's and this is what you drafted her for, and this is what people knew was capable. And I think that I don't know how many people have said it vocally because I haven't really kept my ear to the streets in that way. But I think that it seemed like people were starting to doubt if she could beat that player. And I know that a lot of that was just injuries and not being able to build that flow. But like seeing it in full effect has been really fun. Also because. And like, I guess this is like a real, outside of the X's and O's part of it, she just seems like a great person. Like, like
absolutely,
it couldn't happen to a better person, right? Like, so I'm really happy for her
100%.
because it's all coming together nicely for a player that has always had all of the abilities, and it just hadn't come together in large part just because of injury.
Michael Jordan isn't simply picking anybody to join Team Jordan, that's for sure.
Right,
yeah.
Anybody. Yeah, and it might be a little bit bigger than just, can she be that player? But I think the bigger question ended up being, could she be that player in Dallas? Because, people end up, once they leave, they become that player.
Oh, boy.
After Dallas. Everybody has a better time, like Skylar Diggins-Smith. I mean, like, she was really good when she was here. She's pretty great in Phoenix. So, I mean, there's a lot of examples of players that are happier and better off in new destinations. All-Star Leash. I mean, we could talk about a lot of players that have moved on from Dallas.
Mo Jefferson out here looking like a full player. That was great.
Yeah, man. And it's good to see Mo healthy. And like in all seriousness, it seems like you're poking at players sometimes when you're putting out, their injuries all the time, and like, you can't stay healthy and things like that. I'm like, it's just, true, the unfortunate events that have come to her career with her knee injuries. But like I said, she can ball out when she's healthy, and Phoenix certainly needs it.
Drew's just waiting for someone to take a chance and pick up Charlie Collier and let her go off. Another one.
I don't want to say that.
Yep, that gets one of Reggie's. Yeah,
I don't want to be. I don't want to be his thoughts. I don't want to do it. I don't.
Okay, better questions, and we'll move on to it. We talked about coaches. I don't know which side of the spectrum this is on, the good or the bad, but. Do you see LT sticking out a future of longer than 2 years as opposed to the past 2 coaches in Dallas?
I think so, just off of the vibes, right? Like VJ lost the locker room. VJ won a playoff game and got fired. And like that feels like a you lost the locker room type situation, right? Like there's only so much you can do losing the locker room. Comparing it to the NBA, right? Y'all remember when LeBron was in Cleveland? And there was a head coach by the name of David Blatt. Y'all remember old boy? Not a bad basketball coach. Won a lot of EuroLeague stuff. He came over here, and it just became very evident that them folks did not respect him. Partially because he was wilding for respect on the other end. Like he was trying so hard to get respect. They did not want to respect him in turn.
And then he got to an NBA Finals.
And they got him out of there, right? Like they got him out of there very quickly, right? Like the level of success is not going to save you in basketball if you cannot keep the locker room. VJ has that. And so, VJ. Wow, that's unfortunate. LT has that. And so I think that helps, in addition to like the team looks decent. Like the team is not a bad basketball team. And so I think those two things together in correlation will help her get an opportunity to really have her system get out here. And they're legitimately playing defense, right? And some of this has to be said early on is going to be a honeymoon period. You're going to see the best of a coach early on anyways, just because people are inclined to buy in. Where it continues, if it grows, all those things, I think are situations where we judge Coach Trammell. But to start with, like, she has set herself up to have a few seasons, and rightfully so, right? Like, I think it's probably not an organizational prerogative to constantly be flipping coaches as well. That's not what they want to do either. Right. So if they have an opportunity, seeing some level of growth, which you've seen in certain places with this team itself, and thinking that, you know, your star players and the players that, you know, are the foundational to your team like it, you keep going, I think.
KG, what say you?
It's funny because if we've talked about the Wings so far, I just keep thinking, the only thought that keeps running through my head is, and this is not a question that needs to be, thought about now or answered now, I should say. But at some point down the road, a decision is going to have to be made. What do you want this team to be defined as, and what do you want them to look like? Do you continue down the road of obviously an all-star who can go get her own shot at any point and at any time on the floor? Or do you look at this other one who's got what appears to be a really growing all-around game that can handle the ball, that can shoot, can get downhill, she can rebound. We all know the double-doubles that Satu's had so far this year. What do you want to look like from an organizational standpoint? Because this gets to one of my only for real hot takes when it comes to the Wings at this point. We touched on it a little bit earlier. I'm kind of gotten to the point where I feel like the better all-around player for the Wings now, I mean, how is it not Satu Sabally at this point? That's just me.
I like how you couched in the better all-around player. I like that. I like that.
Okay, let's just put it on the table. Enrique's fantastic scorer. Get her own bucket.
Incredible.
The amount of clearance that she gets on her step back three, I've never seen before. Like, the amount of clearance she gains is just wild. But then you watch Satu play, she can shoot, she can get downhill, she can rebound, becoming a better passer. And to Reggie's point, which he loves, she's going to guard your other team's best player every single night, which to me, I want to maybe build around that versus someone who, yes, is a terrific scorer and can do all those things offensively. And Enrique is an underrated passer, good passer. She's actually a good passer. But for me, Satu gives me the idea of, oh, maybe I can build around this because now I can find pieces that can fit different skill sets that she has versus trying to figure out who can fit around Enrique because of the fact that she can score and occasionally, find people in terms of, her passing game. That's just where I am. There still needs to be more of a sample size, obviously, because we've seen it for just basically a half season now for Satu and what she's done so far. But if this continues, I mean, at some point,
all right. Can I save you from yourself real quick? Because I don't think it has to be an either or proposition. It's one of the reasons why I've talked a lot about playmaking here in this instance. I think Enrique kind of suffers from framing because like when she has to be kind of primary playmaker, then you put her in some certain situations. Now, Drew, can I ask you this question real quick from your perspective as somebody who's been in that building a lot? Have you seen Enrique try as much to like exemplify the things like the team basketball concepts that a coach would bring in as much as she has recently when we talk about playing dogged defense, passing the ball? Have you seen her try that more than she has this season?
No, it's gradually improved in the last two for sure. More so.
And so with that being the case, I think she can move a lot closer to that place where she fits in that team dynamic of what you want. And then if you give her a point guard that can also play, like, I mean, obviously best case scenario, but like, this is not fair. Like you give her a Chelsea Gray type situation. Now you see that flourish fully. So I think some of this is the team building aspect of it. And then also just like seeing that come along, because one thing that she does have that you just don't get, and you can't be like too hasty to get away, the go get a bucket, right? I don't know that there is a single player that I go for and I select above Enrique, and I need a bucket right this moment. I understand that's reckless to say, and I'm saying it, right?
I would like to submit Joel Lloyd to the conversation, please. I'll
take Enrique. You can have Joel Lloyd. I say that sincerely. You can have it. I will take Enrique. And I think that like the problem is at least in my estimation, because I don't know who I am to say like definitively that this is the problem, but I think she's just asked to do that too much, or whether she calls on her own number to do it too much, or like the system dictates to her to do it too much. But I think a little too much of that is a problem, right? Like think Kobe Bryant. When you get to Kobe Bryant, you're like, yo, we need it. All right, cool. It's great to have it. But when it's all right, I'm doing it all the time, it's like, hey, Kobe, pass the ball, right? And I think that's some of it, at least in my estimation.
Do you think the downfall of the offense over the years, at least ever since Enrique's been here, because we've had a new coach every couple of years since she's been here, the downfall being that these coaches are being defensive minded, and that's the reason the offense hasn't been able to be reined in over the past 5 seasons, or 4.5 technically now since we're halfway through this one. Because I mean they've been bringing in Agler, defensive minded coach, VJ, defensive minded coach, LT, defensive minded coach. So they've been trying to ramp up the defense, which really hasn't really beefed up to the level that they've wanted it to. I mean, it's getting a little better each year, but it's not there totally. And the offense has always had its really nice moments, but never ever been able to be reined in, and always ends up to where it is now.
I think that's a fair point. I think it's absolutely a fair point. The problem with like being defense oriented and stuff is like, I think that leans into the idea that, hey, man, we can just coach up defense. When I think at the highest levels of basketball, defense is a talent proposition. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why there's not as many people seem to like grasp that idea, or maybe more do, and I'm just like creating a straw man in this moment. I apologize if that's the case. But like
this is the ISO moment for Reg right here.
You gotta have the talent, you gotta have the length, you've got to have the foot speed, you've got to have the athleticism. The people that can play really good defense have a lot of those things. Now, I'm not saying that there are players that don't have those things that can't play good defense. It's not the case. But more often than not, being able to build a good defense, you'll find a good defense. You find a lot of the players that have the natural talents that make defense easier to play. So if you look at the roster construction, you haven't always had those players while trying to play a defensive focus, offense, or have a defensive focus identity, and then you haven't put enough on offense. Because this is the problem. If you come in and say we're going to play hard-nosed defense and you don't build a good enough offense, and it's just we're going to depend on individual brilliance will fail you at times. And I think that's ties in with what I was saying with Enrique prior, is that, hey, if you have to go for what go it alone, there's going to be a lot more failure. To tie it back to Kobe Bryant again, one of the reasons why people think he's wild clutch is because he had to do it a lot. Go look at the clutch numbers. It doesn't happen as high of a percentage as your brain seems to think. Being in a team dynamic, being in things in a framework that makes it easier on you matters. And that's what offensive, building out an offense does. It gets you easier opportunities and makes it easier on you. And that's one of the things I found myself saying a few times during the Wings season this year is like, hey, man, why does this look so hard?
Yeah. Right here with you guys. We're going to get to some past clips of some episodes where Reggie was on, and we got some audio of KG. We don't have the video because that was a long time ago, November 2020, mid-pandemic. Ain't no video for that. I barely knew how to do Zoom and things when that stuff started happening. So we got that here on the other side of this quick ad break, because we got to tell everybody about our partners at TeePublic. We got a sale going on right now, site-wide, up to 35% off. Ladies and gentlemen, and there's plenty of merch out there, but if you're looking to get your fix of sports and that morning coffee in the morning as you listen to the Lowdown, snag a mug with a Lowdown logo on it by shopping at the link in our description and get yourself hooked up for some hot coffee in the morning with a Lowdown mug.
That's right, Drew. I've got some merch coming in. Hopefully it will be here over the weekend with, the Lowdown Network, starting up all these new shows. Got some new merch out there for the college basketball and college football shows. So I've got some merch coming in hopefully this weekend. But I also have shopped with our friends over at Fanatics. I mean, we'll tell you more about that here with the MLB All-Star Game plus the WNBA All-Star Game coming up next weekend. You can go ahead and get yourself some All-Star merchandise. Maybe you want to represent with one of 6 Texas Rangers that were named as All-Stars this year. Well, Fanatics is the place to go to get that officially licensed merchandise right now, up to 65% off for just a few more hours. And you can find that by going to Fanatics and using the code WAVES site-wide. That is fanatics.com, officially licensed everything. And Drew, now that we're back, we got some old clips here that we want to break out. What what do we want to show first, or do we want to listen first, or do we want to watch first?
Let's listen to the first guy that hopped on the show first. KG. We got some audio from KG, some wise words that could come to fruition here pretty soon for the Dallas Mavericks.
But more than anything, a 3-and-D, an athletic 3-and-D, and willing defender, and a veteran point guard. I think the Dallas Mavericks could really use that to really propel them to, championship level status.
And that was back in the pilot.
Yeah, back in the pilot episode back in November, KG making some predictions ahead to summer 2023, where we brought back Kyrie Irving, our veteran point guard. And if you want to go ahead and make it 100% accurate, Grant Williams for your 3-and-D, or we could, whatever move comes next could fulfill it. KG, do you have some crystal ball or something? Did you have that during the episode that we couldn't see? We didn't have video. What was going on?
It's almost like the guy knows what he's talking about a little bit.
Yeah. Talk that talk then.
Hey. Can I get the lottery numbers then?
Hey.
If you're going to,
yeah.
I'll
go play tonight.
Look, if AI not trying to give him out, I don't have him either. So, that's that. I ain't got him for you. But, and look, all of us watch enough basketball, especially the way that the game has evolved, to kind of get an idea of how some of this should go based off of what, these teams are trying to do. And I've had to learn from Reg in this case that, you can't take what a championship team or a successful team has done prior and try to project that onto, the squad that you may be, loving or rooting for or covering. And I had tried to do that the last couple of years when it came to what the Warriors did and what the Suns had done, prior to that, to see if that could be built, for the Mavericks. But, they've got a top 5 generational talent in Luka. What fits him? How do you find a way to fit what he does and then build around him? I just hope that they got it right with Kyrie Irving, because it's an expensive experiment to try and go about to figure out if it's going to work. Because if you don't get this right, the CBA is not here for you messing up your, super team configurations, because it doesn't have it anymore. So hopefully the Mavericks got it right by getting Kyrie Irving back in the fold. And we'll get a full training camp in the season to hopefully see how those two work together on a much more full-time basis versus the sample size we saw from them this past season.
Can't wait for it. And now, Mr. Reggie.
Uh-oh.
We've got Mr. Reggie talking about the Dallas Wings from last year, and we'll see if any of that applies to what the Wings got going on this year.
Kind of amazing that we came into this season with Wings, and I looked up and oh man, Wings are good. And the players are actually factoring in are not actually years that they've been like saving up draft capital to draft. It's supposed to be a young team where the young players are factoring in. You know who are the players that are making noise? Marina Mabry, obviously Enrique, Alicia Gray. Okay, like these are people who have been kind of the backbone of this team for a long time, whether they have been role coming off the bench to solidify that in a season where I would kind of throw a lot of the youth out there and see what happens, or whether now they're starting lineup and kind of been given the minutes to do it.
Oh boy, that audio really was bad. My bad. Yeah, that's tough.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
No, but as soon as I started going in that clip, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that take. But it was like, take isn't even the right word. Like, it's observation, right? Yeah. This is a team that for a long time had gone in on the idea of we're going to get a lot of draft capital and we're just going to pick them and we're going to get a whole bunch of youth and they're going to factor in. And the youth at that time was not factoring in, and the youth at this time is Satu. Right? Like who are the young players that are factoring in? Satu. Now they're working in Maddie Segrist.
I'm about to say Maddie getting a little run here these days.
Yeah.
A walk.
And they're starting to increase the bench time, which is nice, knowing that the starters cannot play 38 minutes a night.
Enrique played 40 the other night.
I mean, well, Enrique's different. That she's the offense, so that works different. But Maddie's getting some time. Awaka's getting a little time, and now she's really deserving it in my estimation. She looks like she should be on the court, and hopefully that development continues, because I would like to see her be better than she is right now. But yeah, like it's just now. Of course, they have some more young players that are injured, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, the backbone of your team is still veterans. It's still Natasha Howard. It's still Tiara McCown. It's still Crystal Dangerfield, I guess, because she's been playing a lot of those minutes. Like it's still older players. And so at least this year you could look around and be like, okay, but they actually did that on purpose, right? Like they went out And they added Tierra McCown last season. They went out and they added Natasha Howard. And I think that that's an acknowledgement that you can't just throw all these young folks on the roster and think that that's going to be enough. There needs to be some understanding of what is going to work after seeing it, from veteran players. So, yeah, I will take a victory lap on that. I appreciate that. Thank you, fellas.
Hey, I thought we tossed that out there for you. And we haven't talked about the rest of the surrounding NBA free agent news, but we did have another clip of Reggie. We will save that for audio purposes. But I do have some quotables from it because I remember what you said. We were talking about Draymond Green last year, and you threw it back to when Luke Walton was coaching, mentioning back when he had that 30 or 40 game stint early in the year, and talking about how Draymond Green was a coach and his value to that Warriors team. And the Warriors clearly see what you're talking about, Reggie, because they brought him back. And how big is that for Golden State?
I don't know. Funny enough, right? Like it's important for their culture and like there's something to be said for the way that the community embraces a set of players, and you have built so much there that like I don't think that you could keep going with just Steph and Clay. Like having that ride that all the way to the wheels falls off seems like something that would matter in that community. And building even lifelong attachments to that organization. I think that matters. On top of that, he's the spine of what they've done. Like he's the spirit of what they've done. And they've said as much as I think that like the actual motor and none of this works at all if Steph isn't there in a way that like you take any of these other cats out and it probably goes a lot better. But I don't think it's optimal. And it's easy when the dichotomy is Draymond Green or an overpaid Jordan Poole. That doesn't really fit the dynamic of what you're asking for. Yeah, that makes it a lot easier. But no, I understand absolutely why Draymond Green. And I mean, look, that dude's incredibly smart, right? Like I'm not trying to undercut him. Like he is one of the greater basketball minds that we have in the league right now, and that is not to be understated, right? So I think that all those things factor in and matter when it comes down to the Golden State Warriors.
One of the few players. Oh, go ahead, KG.
I was going to say, the only question I have is, how does this work from a ball handling standpoint? Because you have three terrific ball handlers with Steph, obviously Draymond, and now you throw Chris Paul into the mix. How does all of that work and mesh together given what this team has done where Draymond and Stephen Curry have been the primary ball handlers, throughout this entire run for Golden State? Now you throw Chris Paul into the mix, who is the true consummate, point guard and floor general. How does all of that work, going into this upcoming year? I'm interested.
It doesn't work in your mind because you keep thinking Chris Paul is starting. He's not.
No, I was about to say he's going to be coming off the bench. He has to.
Is he closing?
He might close in certain situations. I don't think in every situation. I think he'll close in certain situations. He's going to, because one of the things that KG you're not taking into account, the Warriors have been awful in non-Steph minutes. Yeah. Awful. And that's some of the reason why you looked at Jordan Poole and you're like, yo, this $30 million isn't getting us what we need. And even though they weren't paying that yet, but the $30 million isn't getting us what we want. Chris Paul, you can hand him a bench unit and go, we'll make it. We won't lose these minutes, even if you stay afloat. And staying afloat.
Expensive bench player. That's an expensive bench player.
Well, it was going to be an expensive bench player in Jordan Poole. Do you want Jordan Poole expensive,
he's not
or
good.
Do you want Chris Paul?
He's not good.
Well, there you go. Right? Like that was.
I think the only question that you have to ask is, do you want an expensive old head off the bench, or do you want an expensive young head off the bench? I guess.
Well, I mean, the old head will only be here for a year, and he'll actually play well. So.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that lineup. I'm like, what that opening lineup looks like opening night for them. I'm so fascinated by giving what that.
It's the same damn opening lineup. It's not going to change at all.
We have this has been a point of contention for the two of us when it comes to the Warriors and what they're going to be doing
Steph,
this offseason.
Clay, Wig, Draymond, Kevon Looney.
Yeah,
the five is the same.
See, now I think they go small. I think they go.
That is small.
No. I think they go like ultra small. I think they go Chris Paul, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Wiggins, and Draymond is your small ball five.
And they'll probably. I don't know if they'll start that unit, but they'll probably they might finish with that unit sometimes. I think because
Yeah.
like Reggie mentioned, them mostly or finishing sometimes with Chris Paul. I think they'll test that out, and if that's something that works, they would close with that. That'd probably be the smartest unit you have out there.
Oh,
And
definitely.
interested to see how the Clay and Steph running around the court to get open around people with Chris Paul throwing it to you works out. I think that could
Yeah.
be some firepower clips that the Mike Breen bang is going to be all over this season.
Also, just a lot of nut punchers on the court at the same time. Man. Like,
Yeah, man, there is also that is
just
also
watching
that.
manhood out there because it's woof.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that it's not a requirement, but cups might be coming back in the NBA this year.
Man,
At least when you're in Chase Center, for sure.
Or anytime you're on the floor with Golden State at this point.
Man, could see 2 in one game. One Chris, one Dre. That would be crazy. Oh my goodness. Man. All right. So I don't remember if we played this when KG was here, but we definitely played it when Reggie was here. And that's a little game called With It or Quit It that we play at the end of every episode. When we don't have a guest, it's just me and BJ. But when we have guests here, we're firing off 5 questions to you. And BJ is at the helm once again. This is the second time he's had it with Reggie here. Yes. And do you remember this game, KG? Did we play it when in the first episode?
I don't think so.
I didn't think it was around for the pilot, Drew. I think it was just when you and I came in episode 3. I think was the first time.
Well,
we played it.
KG's first With It or Quit It. Oh, there you go, BJ.
All right. Well, I'm going to, before I start off with question number 1, I have to ask, because this is centric to this question. Have either of you, or hopefully both of you, seen Dial of Destiny yet?
I have not. No. In fact, I will go a step further. I have not actually watched any Indiana Jones movies.
You're just like Drew then. My goodness, my questions are wasted over here. I bring this up because Drew and I talked last week, and I was going to see it. I told him if we were coming back with our own segments this week that I'd mention it. But
I think it's how they convince Harrison Ford to do this at 100 years old.
I was trying to tell BJ, like, this man is old.
I'm like, yeah, I get the money. I'm sure it was probably amazing, but damn it, like Harrison Ford, kicking that near 100.
It's that Disney money, man. I'm telling you, Disney has ways of making anybody do anything that they want. I don't know what it is, but
except for pay ESPN employees, apparently.
Yeah.
Always on time, KG. Always on time.
So basically, I guess because if you haven't seen it, the first question is probably an easy one if you don't know. I've seen a whole lot of hate for it, and I don't think that it's getting more hate than it deserves. And that's the question, basically, is that is it getting more hate than it truly deserves? If you haven't seen the movie, it really doesn't matter one way or the other, though.
Yeah, I have no idea, because I want to say With It just because Indiana Jones, like the whole series, I guess, the whole franchise, it's kind of tongue in cheek, is it not? Like, I think that, but then at the same time, I know people that vehemently are like, oh, that is the bad movie. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, no, that's the bad one in the series. We don't watch that. So, like, was that Crystal Skull? Is that the one that everybody's like, that's the bad one? Right. So,
and the thing about it is that I've seen people on Twitter saying that Crystal Skull, which they, like a few weeks ago were saying is trash, the worst movie in the franchise, was the true ending. They should have never made this one. That's why I asked the question.
So that's the tough part about it, is like, I think I see like the way the tone that the entire series wants to take, but I also see the way that like the fan base treats it. And so at the same time, the answer is yes, like all of it. it's more than it deserves, but at the same time, just the right amount.
He's with it. KG.
He's with it. Kevin.
I'm gonna say With It, because who could hate on Harrison Ford at this point? Like I said, my man near 100, making money, is still making an Indiana Jones film. So quit hating on Harrison Ford. Let him leave him be. Leave him be.
Absolutely. There you go. Just tell him not to fly any more World War II planes. We'll be all good.
True.
All right. Question number 2 for the two of you guys. This is one I know you guys will be able to give a true answer on. Talking about the Texas Rangers, you're preempted by them tonight again, but they need to make a move and bolster the starting pitching before the trade deadline. Are you with it? You're going to quit it?
Oh, the starting pitching.
Not just the pen.
Yeah, I'm going to say With It, because this whole Martin Perez thing is starting to fall off the rails a little bit. And I mean, I'm happy my man got his $19 million this season, but yikes. it's been a little rough for him. In fact, I think they're going to skip his next start this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I think I saw that from Evan Grant that they're going to skip his next start heading into the All-Star break. So, yeah, rough times for Martin Perez right now. So, I would say, yeah, I'm with it. Yeah, I'm with it.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely with it. In part because of the Martin Perez thing. Even Derek Holland was like, yeah, I'm getting to a point where I'm a little concerned. I was like, oh, okay, cool. If the former major leaguers, all right. But also on top of that, look, man, this is a team that looks like they can actually win. Like all of the power rankings, not that is like an article that is indicative of anything in particular, but all the power rankings have the Rangers as a top 4 team in baseball. Hey, man, if you're at that level, I need to make sure that you have a 1, 2, 3 that I feel great about once we get to the playoffs, which means John Gray and Nathan Eovaldi are definitely 1, 2 for me. Maybe you like Dane Dunning to that level. Cool. But I would prefer if I had a guy that I felt really great on. And I don't mean that to sound like shade to Dane Dunning because he has been incredible. But you know what Dane Dunning is? Another guy who picks his spots kind of like where Martin Perez was. And not to say that I hope or I think that it'll fall off the rails, but you open yourself to the possibility of that. And I'd like it a lot better if you had somebody you feel really good about as that third pitcher, because if you feel like this is for real, and if you are willing to go and buy in a real way anyways to fix your pen, maybe even get you another bat in the lineup, then you definitely need to make sure the starting pitching is right for when you go into the postseason.
Yeah, and for Dayton Dunning as a stopgap, filling in for DeGrom, he's been phenomenal. But like you guys said, I mean, the more arms you have, the better you got to feel, especially when you're down 10-2 at one point, and then you come back to take the lead only for the bullpen to blow it yet again. But,
and buddy, nothing would make me feel better than if you get a starting pitcher and like you get to the postseason, it's like we got 1, 2, 3. Hey, we have to push Dane Dunning to the bullpen. Sounds great. Yeah. Love it. Right? Like would love to hear it.
That.
That's the disappointing part about DeGrom getting injured, because I was ready for Game 1, Jacob DeGrom, Game 2, Nathan Eovaldi, Game 3, John Gray. If you need Dane Dunning in Game 4, great. But guess what? If I need to go back to, a desperation situation where I need DeGrom to pitch Game 4, guess what? I can run him back out there on short rest if I needed to. So, yeah, that's the disappointing part with DeGrom getting injured for sure.
Absolutely 100% with you guys. Number 3, just a generality, lemonade. Are you with it? Or are you going to quit it?
Love lemonade.
Oh, yeah, with it, for sure.
Wait, regular lemonade or pink?
Yes.
Regular lemonade.
Oh,
I was the king.
I knew somebody would have a preference.
I was the king of lemonade in college. Like, people came to my dorm just for my lemonade. Like, it was
you was the lemonade plug.
Press pause. Press pause. How was you making this lemonade?
What you mean, how was I making this lemonade?
From what?
2 packs of regular Kool-Aid lemonade.
There it is. That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. No, you're fine. You're good. I was like, this man is not squeezing no damn lemon. I know damn well you're not making. All right.
I think I was making fresh squeezed lemonade in my college dorm room.
Yes, because fresh squeezed lemonade is incredible.
Of course it is when you got the time to actually sit down and do it. But who in today's 24/7, 365 world got time to do that?
My boy, you was just bragging about open up Kool-Aid packets, brother.
Exactly. That takes 30
all right,
seconds.
Just want to make sure that you knew what you were saying. That's cool.
The sugar to Kool-Aid ratio is a sign of perfection. Okay?
I respect it. No, I also understand and appreciate that artistry. I just wanted to let you know that's what you was bragging on right then. Okay.
Just saying.
Okay. So, follow up. This isn't going to count, but pink lemonade, regular lemonade, if you're looking at like Minute Maid, because I think that's the most notable lemonade
if I'm
brand.
looking at Minute Maid pink lemonade, if I'm looking at, does Simply even have pink lemonade? If I'm looking at something
Simply does. Yeah,
I will go with original lemonade if I'm going to like Simply.
I think so too.
Same.
Love me some pink lemonade.
Absolutely wonderful.
I don't even know what the pink is, but if it's pink,
don't. I mean, that was the most delicious thing at the college fountains when you go up there. I mean, it 100%. Always tastes like deliciousness. So I'm about it.
It tastes like pure diabetes in a cup, man. I'll tell you.
That's what mine was in college. Diabetes in a cup, right there.
I'm gonna have to get your recipe. You're gonna have to make some for us next time we all get together.
That's right. Yeah. Why have I not had any of this lemonade, KG?
You got to bring
diabetes in a cup.
He said I'm too old for that.
Right. Oh boy, yeah, that's why, right there.
All right, number 4 just happened earlier today. Of course, you probably are familiar with it, but the name you should be familiar with is Brandon Aubrey, because he's going to be the Cowboys' place kicker in Week 1. Are you with it?
I didn't.
Who? Quit it. Brandon
Did
Aubrey.
you not hear this out of the
I
USFL?
saw it, but I'm still like, who?
Oh, okay,
USFL,
I was like, was
Birmingham
that
Stallions.
earnest or was that a joke? It was a joke. Okay, fantastic.
No, quit it. Where's Mason Crosby at? Bring him here. Where is Mike McCarthy's boy, Mason Crosby? Bring him on in here. That's what I want to see. Just for the sheer jokes and hilarity of it, of Mason Crosby at 50 years old, place kicking for, America's team.
If we're going to go get Sebastian Janikowski, Kevin. Come on.
Hey, but if
I'm with that right there. Purely for the jokes.
Martin
Purely for the jokes.
Where are we going with this?
That's
if
right.
this recent version of Crosby shows up that was missing 30-yard field goals but making 50, we're going to be stressed out all season long.
It's Maher 2.0, but like 20 years older.
My favorite moment
making
from
the
last
long
year's
ones, but
season.
missing the short ones.
My favorite moment from last year's season was watching Cincinnati and Green Bay miss field goals all day long.
That was the best. 5 or whatever.
Couldn't kick to save them lives that day.
He had the same Mason Crosby face after every miss. I was like, man.
But guess who stepped up and made the game winner? That's right, Mason Crosby. That's right. That's right.
He'll come.
What about you, Reg?
Eventually.
I am with it because look, man, Mason Crosby out here doing interviews about how he's still ready to go, and they ain't signed him up.
That's when you down bad. When you try to tell people, "Hey, I'm ready for a job."
Yeah. So with that being the case, you think they go?
Yeah.
You think they go wait to camp and then be like, "Hey, bring your old self over here"? Nah. They're really trying to make this other. So like, hey, man, this Aubrey cat, maybe he gets out here is good because I remember when they brought this Brett Maher kid in front of us. I was like, who? And he was pretty good up until he got the yips. So I don't know. Like, how am I supposed to know? We're gonna see. Get out here and see.
Shout out to the USFL putting products back in the league. This second year in a row, the Cowboys to sign a USFL player, Devontae Turpin last year. Now, whomever this dude is, kicking.
Brandon Aubrey, yes.
Brandon Aubrey. Sorry.
I forgot the name too. I ain't even gonna lie. I'm sorry.
Man.
Hey, I'm telling you now, put it in your mind, commit it to memory for week 1. You're gonna hear Brad Sham say Aubrey.
Do we have to commit it to memory?
No.
Do we?
You're gonna hear
Because if he misses the first field goal he kicks as a Dallas Cowboy, he's done for.
Don't worry, you don't have to try and commit it to memory. By the time we get into camp, you will hear his name way too much. You'll be hoping to forget his name.
Let him hit an NFL Network set like Jonathan Garibay did last year. You ain't gonna hear from that cat ever again.
Or will he make it through camp?
Oh, poor Jonathan Garibay.
Hey, man.
They was trying so hard to give him that job.
Oh, they wanted to have that job so bad. They wanted him to have that job so bad. But you can't nail Tom Pelissero in the face and be like, no, you can't around. You can't do that.
Not unless he's standing between the uprights.
That's Mike McCarthy's boy. You can't be nailing Tom Pelissero in the face. It's Mike McCarthy's boy. You can't do that. Can't do that.
All right, guys, last but not least, number 5. When you're preempted like you are tonight, there should be a Get Right daily podcast for that sole purpose and reason. Are you with it? Or are you going to quit it?
KG, go ahead and answer this for me.
On Reggie's behalf, quit it.
Because you know what that sounded like to me? More work.
See, my job.
Y'all are too smart not to have a daily podcast when you're not on the radio, though. I'm telling you.
Let sports people these days tell it they're not ready for that because they showed cancel Bomani Jones after 2 years talking about y'all was ready for smart sports talk, and next you know Bomani not out here after 2 really good seasons of game theory. But I will say this, we really appreciate everyone who rocks with us. We really do, because when we are not on air like we're on tonight, people, when the whole Grant Williams thing, for example, went down last night, where to get right at. We want to hear about the trade. We want to hear y'all break down the trade, this, that, and the third. So, we know that folks really enjoy our show. And that, for me, speaking for me personally, that's a really cool feeling that people, remember us, because like professional wrestling, a professional wrestler's worst nightmare is if they're not remembered by somebody. Yeah. And we don't necessarily have that problem. Yes, Reggie, I got a professional reference.
It was such a good sentiment up until that point.
Yeah, that's right.
He's been flexing the whole podcast. Wrestling. You could have seen that coming.
I should have. I should have.
Right. But no, we really appreciate those who rock with the Get Right for sure.
Sincerely. It's easy to just do this thing and we're just doing this and it's fun or whatever. But to see that people not even just listen to it and tolerate it, because that's one thing that I appreciate, right? That's not something you have to do either. But the people that genuinely, it means something to them, and in a way for them to go out of their way to listen to it, but then also to demand it and really hope for it, and to the point where people are talking bad about the Rangers, and I'm like, hey, just enjoy this. Like, it's good. No, you don't have to be
like, we love the good guys, okay?
Right. This is not adversarial, but
exactly.
The fact that people, like, I've seen people have like attachments to things, like to shows and movies and things, and it's like, okay, that's an interesting concept. And then when that is a thing that you are doing, it's a whole different level of validation that I appreciate.
Yeah, 100%. No, but nobody wants to wait until 5 a.m. to get thoughts on the Grant Williams trade. Come on.
Well, if you're waiting till 5 a.m., if you're watching the time till 5 a.m., you might need, I don't know, Jesus else. Something. I don't know. Get Whataburger up and get you a biscuit or something, man. Like that.
Get something to drink. It's gonna be.
That's work Reg will do. He'll get up to go to Whataburger and go get himself, a biscuit or something, or a sandwich.
Actually, now that I said that, at 11 p.m.,
sound real good.
There you go.
The Whataburger drive-through.
That's what y'all is. That the go-to is after the get right? Is you go to the Whataburger and get the biscuit to go home and eat before bed?
No, I have to be a little bit more responsible with my money in that way. I can't just be doing that all the time. Also, that's not like the healthiest decision to just be going to the Whataburger drive-thru all the time. But from time to time, just to treat myself. But also, I found myself more recently just lying to myself that I'm going to stop at the Whataburger drive-thru. And KG has heard this many times. I'm like, I'm going to go get me a biscuit, and then I'm just at home. It's fine.
Yeah, pretty much.
We got sleep for dinner tonight. Let's go.
That's right. That's right. Good helping of sleep.
Good old slice of it, man.
That's right.
Well, hey guys, we definitely enjoy y'all's show, and we enjoy having you on when you get a chance to hop on with us. Glad y'all's second appearance was at the same time we were able to get it worked out. I know Reggie's got time constraints right now, so gonna try and wrap it up. Oh no,
no, the hair is already done. You know what I mean? The hair is done. I apologize for making y'all wait.
You're good.
It was worth the wait.
Thank
you.
For
sure. A great episode. Just rounded it out. We just mentioned y'all's show, The Get Right. Everybody can see the 105.3 fan on the screen that is watching. What do you guys got coming up next, and when do you get to have your next episode?
Is it Monday?
Yeah, so we'll be on Monday through Thursday this coming week. Yeah, that's right, Rez. Time to work. It's time to work.
4 days in a row of it.
How about
just
that?
4 days in a row in the MLB All-Star break. Woo.
Yeah, that's right. Well, shout out to Adolis Garcia. He's going to be in the home run derby, so there's that. We'll be able to watch him, hit baseballs, really far in Seattle, so that'll be fun. But yeah, Monday through Thursday. Next week we'll be on 7 to 11. Of course, we'll recap what's going on with the Mavericks Free Agency. But of course, it's all about the Rangers. They got a bazillion All-Stars this year, and the summer
prepare yourself for some lists.
Yeah, lists. Yep.
By
the way, this is Reg's favorite time of the year because we're in between now and when training camp starts. And he loves things like, 53-man roster projections. So we'll get into some of that, I'm sure, this upcoming week. Training camp battles, that kind of thing, position group battles, all of that. So, look for golden radio from Reg this week when it comes to talking about his.
Do I got some days off? Let me see if I got some days off.
No, you took all those
PTO.
already. You already took those off already.
PTO ran out.
Where's that pre-training camp vacation time you were?
That's right. I need to see.
He took it already. He's here for the long haul. That's wild. Football season starts in late July and doesn't end till February. Like that's what it's about to be. Here in a few.
You're not Julie in HR. You don't know how much PTO I got.
I don't, but I know you've taken, quite a bit so far.
You'd be surprised.
Hey, let Reggie get his time off.
Give him more time off.
If it means me doing a solo show by myself, have all the time off you want, Reggie.
Oh yeah, so you won. You got it. You got it.
Hey, fellas, we definitely appreciate having you guys on for sure. Look forward to having you guys on again some other time whenever we get the chance. And
by the way, congratulations to you. Congratulations to you. Go out here being a whole program director in the Dakotas, man. Congratulations to you, man. Very 100%. Well done. Yeah, super congratulations to you, man, for sure, man.
Thank you, man. It's going to be cold up there. If you want to donate some coats or some a GoFundMe account for me to get some warm weather or some cold weather clothes, I'll take it.
I left all mine in Missouri when I moved here 10 years ago, so I ain't got nothing for you.
You might find it on your way up there, Drew, if you're looking.
Hopefully. Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any final things from you guys before we head out?
Thank you for having us, man. Thank you.
I feel like I've said way too many things at this point. I'm sorry.
Man,
we always enjoy having you guys on.
Yes,
Appreciate
indeed. Make sure you guys go follow them on Twitter. I believe you got Kevin Gray Sports and then at Reg Adetula. So make sure you guys go follow them and check out the Get Right when they're coming back on Monday with their next episode. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Lowdown Sports Show with our guests Kevin Gray Jr. and Reginald Adetula. We'll see you again next time on another edition of the Lowdown.